Hello there, and welcome back to the Fish Tank Barn. Around Christmas time, there was an unfortunate disease outbreak that killed all the fish in this 245-gallon aquarium that you see before you. For the last 2 months, I've been letting this tank sit fallow to allow any parasites in the tank to die out. At this point, I feel the risk of disease is diminished enough that I can start resetting up this tank and move along with relocating another fish into this tank. As a result of resetting up this tank, there will be a daisy chain of other fish moving tanks as well. So come along with me as we reset up this 245-gallon tank and play the subsequent game of musical fish. So let's start out with the fish that I plan on relocating to the 245-gallon tank, my Malawi barracuda. These fish are currently living in a 180-gallon tank, which you can see is heavily overgrown with Vallisneria. Since these are pretty large cichlids, I feel the 245-gallon tank will be a great upgrade to their current living quarters. Even though it's pretty cloudy at the moment, I do want to show you the aquascape that I came up with before I add the Malawi barracudas. One of my complaints with the 180-gallon tank is the fact that the cichlids were always hiding in the rockwork and difficult to see. I decided just to add a few rocks into this tank and leave it mostly open in hopes that the fish will be out and about more often. I did add some Vallisneria sparingly to help with filtration and to provide some cover for the fish. Catching the barracuda turned out to be quite the undertaking, as I had to remove all of the rockwork as well as quite a bit of the Vallisneria in order to get them out of the 180. This is the tank a few days later. I did add a piece of rock as well as a bit more Vallisneria. I did change the lighting on this tank as well. I decided to swap a couple of aquarium co-op lights that I was using on an 125-gallon tank with a shop light that I was using on the 245. The aquarium co-op light definitely gives better coverage. I do want to touch quickly on the filtration in this tank as well, which is achieved through 2 large aquarium co-op sponge filters with the Easy Flow kit, and also a Titled 75 to provide additional filtration. This tank is also auto water changed a couple times a day as well. I'm really happy with how this tank turned out, and I'm really glad to have fish back in this tank again. So now the 245-gallon is finished, it's now time for the cascade of fish moves. The first move was to remove the remaining yellow labs and purple ACI that survived the power outage from the 125-gallon that they were currently inhabiting into the 180 that held the barracuda. I really didn't do much with the aquascape of this tank, other than added some of the rockwork back that I took out when catching the barracuda. In the future, I may change some of the rockwork and remove some of the val, but for now, the fish seem happy. The 125-gallon tank that housed the Mbuna will go through a complete redo sometime when the weather warms up and I can work outside. The next move is also one related to the power outage. Unfortunately, I lost all the Cyprochromis leptosoma in this 40 breeder except for these 2 females, so I decided to move them to my 150-gallon Lake Tanganyika community tank to live out their days. I've been doing some thinking in the fish room, and I've come to realize that I have some mismatched tanks. This first case is this 75-gallon tank with 3 bulldog gadaids and a small colony of Paleatus cories. I figured these fish would be perfect for the 40 breeder that was just vacated by the Cyprochromis. While the bulldog gadaids get big, they should be fine in this 40 breeder. While the tank was empty, I did take the opportunity to plant this tank with some Cryptophinus that I picked up at our local club meeting. I thought that catching the bulldog gadaids would be kind of a pain in such a large planted tank, but it didn't turn out too bad. I did have to wait overnight to catch the last bulldog gadaid, but they're starting to settle in nicely into their 40 breeder. The bulldog gadaids have been pretty reclusive since the move, but hopefully they'll come out soon. I apologize for the tank being so cloudy, but the cories have been stirring it up ever since they've been in the tank. I found that in my experience, this will usually last a week or 2 till everything settles down in the tank. Now that we have the 75-gallon empty, the next question is what to put in it. And I had the perfect answer, and that was these Amica splendens. This is the oldest gadaid colony that I have in my fish room, dating back to 2019, and is also one of the oldest collections of gadaids in the hobby, coming from Robert Rush Miller in 1966. This has been one of my most prolific breeding fish in the fish room, and as you can see, there's plenty of fish and fry in this 40 breeder. With the large number of fish and fry, I figured it was time for an upgrade, so I decided to put these fish in the 75-gallon tank. I've always liked the aquascape in this 75-gallon tank, and I think the large number of Amica splendens really make this tank pop. I'm really looking forward to seeing this colony continue to grow and thrive in this tank. Definitely pretty happy about the move. So now we get to the next question, and that's what goes in the 40 breeder that was vacated by the Omeka Splendens. Last October I bought a colony of Xenotoko dodroi, and they have really taken off. I had them in a 20-gallon hive, and they've been really producing a lot of fry. So the decision was pretty easy to move these fish into the 40 breeder and kickstart what could potentially be my next large Gadaid colony. While these fish don't take up a lot of room in the tank right now, I'm pretty convinced that once these fry grow out, this tank will really start to pop. It'll be a game of patience, but hopefully it'll all pay off in the future. I hope that you've enjoyed taking a look at all of these fish moves and updates here in the fish barn. These are just the beginning of the moves, as I have some other moves in the works as well, so stay tuned to future videos for that. If you missed the story about the power outage, I'll go ahead and add a link to that video in the end, as well as my last full fish room tour. So with that, stay safe, stay fishy, and I'll catch you on the next video.